We are going to be looking at factoring polynomials today. And we always begin factoring with greatest common factor. Because the greatest common factor happens no matter what other technique we use. The greatest common factor happens first, and then we determine where to go next. And that goes back to looking at our factoring graphic organizer. So as you notice, greatest common factor is on the top, and then after that, we can decide how we're going to factor next. Today, we're only going to focus on factoring using the GCF, or the greatest common factor. So there's some rules. Look at the coefficients first, so we're going to look at the numbers. And then we're going to look at the variables. To be a variable that's the greatest common factor, it has to be common to all terms, and then we remove the one with the smallest exponent. So let's get started. I don't know, look at this one. Let's say I have 3x plus 12. I want to bring back the parentheses. So I'm going to work the distributive property backwards. I have 3 and a 12. What is the greatest common factor between 3 and 12? What is the largest number that will divide into both of them evenly? Well, that's 3. So I'm going to take the 3 to the front. I look at the x, but only one term has an x, which means that I cannot take it out. It has to be in both terms or in all terms. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to open up my parentheses, and then I'm going to divide the 3 out of the first and second term. So what is 3x divided by 3? Well, 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that would just be x. And plus 12 divided by 3 is 4. So we brought back the parentheses. We turned this binomial back into multiplication. So let's look at another one. I have 8x squared plus 32x. I start with the numbers, the coefficients. I have an 8 and a 32. Which one should I do? Okay, think 8. 8 goes into 32, so I'm going to go ahead and take the 8 out. I'm going to look at my variables. I have an x squared and an x. I need to get out the one with the smallest exponent. Who has the smallest exponent? Right, just x, because it's x to the first. So I'm going to take out the one with the smallest exponent. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to set up my parentheses. I need to divide every term by 8x. Well, 8 divided by 8 becomes 1, so I'm not going to worry about that. What's x squared divided by x? Yeah, it's just x. We took one of the x's out. Plus 32 divided by 8 is 4. And x divided by x, well, those just cancel. So my final answer would be 8x in parentheses x plus 4. We turned it back into multiplication, or we brought the parentheses back. So let's look at another one. Let's say I had 21 CD minus 3D. Okay, I'm going to take out the number first. I got a 21 and a 3. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a 3. And then I'm looking at my variables. They look a little different. I've got a C and a D in the first one and a D in the second. As there's only a C in the first term, then that means I can't take the C out. It has to be in both terms. And the D is in both, and they're both to the power of 1, so the smallest would be D to the first. I'm going to take this out, open up my parentheses. I'm going to go back and I'm going to divide these out. What's 21 divided by 3? 7. The C is still there. We've not done anything with the C. And D divided by D, well, that goes to 1 as well, because anything divided by itself. Subtract. What is 3D? 3D divided by 3D. If you have a numerator and a denominator that are exactly the same and you divide them by themselves, the answer is 1. This is important. When you are dividing out or taking something to the front, if you have 2 terms in your original binomial, you will have 2 terms inside your parentheses. If you have 3 terms inside your original polynomial, you will have 3 terms inside your parenthesis. It's not going to go away. It may divide to 1, but it's not going to go away. So make sure you're very careful. Let me pause and go ahead and go to the next page. All right, so I'm looking at 15a squared b minus 30ab. I start with the coefficients. I start with the numbers. I have a 15 and a 30. Who's coming out? Yeah, 15, that's definitely the largest. And it goes into 30 evenly. Then I'm looking at my variables. A squared is in the first one, A is in the second one. That means I can take out the smallest of the two, so I'm going to take out the A. I still have this B, so I have a B in the first one and a B in the second. That means that this guy can come out as well, so I'm going to put him to the front. I'm going to open up my parentheses. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to divide each term by my GCF. 15 divided by 15 cancels to 1. A squared divided by A leaves me with A. B divided by B cancels to 1. Subtract what's 30 divided by 15? 2. A divided by A, that cancels. B divided by B, well, that cancels. So inside parentheses, I would just have A minus 2. That parenthesis looks a little funny over there. Let me move it back over here. There we go. 15AB is my greatest common factor. Multiplied, what's left inside is A minus 2 inside parentheses because we brought our parentheses back. We turned it back into multiplication. So let's look at another one real quick. What if I wrote this? What if I said I had 5x minus 3? I look at my coefficients, 5 and 3. Those are my numbers. Well, nothing goes into 5 and 3. That's not going to work. I have an x, but I don't have an x in both of them. So this is what we call prime. Now, sometimes it won't say prime. Sometimes it will say not factorable. This happens. Sometimes it's as small as it can go, and there's nothing we can do to break out. So make sure you're careful. And I want to do one more in this video quickly. Let's do 6x to the 4th plus 14x to the 3rd minus 10x squared. Looking at that, what do you think we're going to take out? I got a 6, a 14, and a 10. Yeah, that's going to be a 2. Now I'm going to look at my x's. I have an x to the 4th, an x to the 3rd, and x to the 2nd. So I would take out x to the 2nd. And then I'm going to go back and I'm just going to divide each one of those out. 6 divided by 2 is 3. X to the 4th divided by x to the 2nd is x squared. Plus 14 divided by 2 is 7. X cubed minus x, or divided by x squared, which we subtract the exponent, so x. Minus 10 divided by 2 is 5. And x squared divided by x squared is canceled, or it goes to 1. So our final answer would be 2x squared times 3x squared plus 7x minus 5. So let's try just one more. So this one's a little bigger. We got a trinomial. I've got the numbers 16, 28, and 8. And I've got to figure out, well, what will go into each one of those. So if you stop and think, the greatest common factor there is going to be 4. And then I'm going to focus on my m's. I have an M3, M2, M, so the smallest is M. I focus next on the N. N1, N2, N3. So the smallest would be N. Open up my parentheses. I know I'm going to have 3 terms. So go ahead and divide those out. 16 divided by 4 is 4. M3 divided by M is M squared. N's cancel. Plus 28 divided by 4 is 7. M squared divided by M is M. N squared divided by N is N. Plus 8 divided by 4 is 2. M divided by M cancels. N cubed divided by N leaves me with N squared. So that's factoring out the GCF. Remember, factoring means we're taking and turning it back into multiplication. So bringing back the parentheses.